Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Circuit Stream's second installment of the Meet Your Instructor series. My name is Arcadius Miller, or Arky. I'm the Student Experience Coordinator here at Circuit Stream, and today I am joined by the lovely Nakisa Donnelly. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So this is going to be fun for me as well because you and I have actually not really had much of a chance to chat yet. So
Not
everyone's
yet.
going to be getting to know you, and I'm going to be getting to know you as well. We have a student who, my first week here, said, "You and Nakisa look like sisters. Are you two related?"
Oh my God. What?
Honestly, but he's reached out a few times to tell me that. No, Nakisa and I do not know each other. We are not sisters
No,
that we know
we are
of.
not. No. Are you half Vietnamese? All right.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure we're very much not related, but that's okay. So, okay, let's just get into it. The purpose of these conversations are just to be casual, informal, and let people kind of get to know you. So let's just get right into it.
All right, I'm ready.
What's your background and experience prior to joining Circuit Stream?
So my background is in electrical engineering and physics. So I took physics at UPEI, way over on the East Coast. And that is where my father was living at the time when he was alive. And I sort of went over there as a tribute. And then I finished my electrical engineering at UNB on New Brunswick. And that's my background. So after I graduated, I started to work as an EIT in the power industry. So do you know what substations are?
Explain.
Okay. So substations are giant lattice structures that it's the structure where all the power lines sort of congregate and they connect to. So they would be somewhere in like residential areas, smaller ones. They would be outside of cities. They'd be along highways. And these substations have logic and relays and computers all designed to keep power on in the event of a power failure. So I was an EIT learning to do the protection and control of these relays and these logical systems because we can't have power interrupted when it goes to a residential area. So that's what I used to do before Circuit Stream.
Right. Okay. So that is from XR. So
yes.
Why the change? What happened?
Why? Well, okay. So I'm not bashing anyone that does power stuff or like the EIT place or the power industry or anything. It just wasn't a place for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't a place for someone who is a creative individual and somewhat outside of the box in terms of like ideologies and culture. That sort of, it's a very old white industry. I'm not bashing it. It's a great industry and there's very interesting advancements. There's even some substations that are being designed in VR now. I think NMAX is doing that, but it just wasn't an industry for me. I needed something different.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. People say that, you know, what you do for work isn't your life. You don't identify with that, but it's really, it's what you do every single day. And that becomes your tribe. And if it's not a good fit, then you got a long life ahead of you doing something you don't love, right?
Yeah.
But then, why XR? What actually had you transition? And then if you want to share a little bit about not only XR, but teaching for XR. How you're interested in being an instructor.
Yeah, how I got interested in being an instructor. So It kind of runs in the family. My mother is a professor at the U of C, the University of Calgary. And so I kind of get it from her. Although we have wildly different teaching styles. Um, she definitely has a talent for conveying information and like really dense information. And every now and then she'll ask me for pointers and I'll be like, oh, well, this is what I do. And then my mother will be like, don't know if I could do that, but I'll try. So yeah, it runs in the family.
Okay, so you got your passion for teaching from your mother. Sounds like
Mhm.
you two have very different styles. Do you think you're maybe take after your dad a little bit more than your mom? Are you more like your dad?
That's a good question.
After I asked
I
it, I realized it might be a weird question, but you started this conversation by saying that
Yeah.
you went over to the East Coast in tribute to your dad. So
Yes.
I was thinking, do you
I
see a lot of him in you?
See, I can't really answer that question because I never knew him. He
Mhm.
passed away when I was a wee pop, when I was 3 months old. I do have a stepfather though, and he has been a beast. He's been a pillar of support, and I love him very much. And he is considered my dad. He is my dad. So I don't know if I am like my biological dad. I might be. Um, I probably am since that I'm like 50% him. So there's probably something there. I'm sure. I'm sure there's something.
What
Um,
does what does your mom teach, by the way?
she teaches nursing,
Nice.
statistical nursing, nursing research. So lots of math. Surprisingly for nursing. There's a lot. She teaches like qualitative and quantitative math, if that makes sense.
It sounds
Statistics.
awful, really.
I
Okay.
attended one of her lectures and it just went completely over my head. And I was like, ah, I have questions, but they're stupid.
That would be me. Okay,
Yeah.
so your passion for teaching came from your mom. Sounds like you were quite inspired by her, in
Yes.
that regard. Now, why XR?
Why XR? Um, that's a very good question. XR is one of the forefronts of technology, and one of the forefronts of technology that has the ability to touch many different industries and to change many different industries. So I was a young, idealistic engineering student that wanted to change the world. Um, and I was like, Tony Stark, yeah, like every other electrical engineer out there. Turns out Tony Stark is not who I want to be and not who I strive to be. Um, but I did retain the ideology to change as much of the world as possible that I could touch. And one of the answers to this is dedicating my life to the XR industry. And because XR is just it just has so much potential, and we're seeing that right now. I mean, like Oculus Quest with its release, the HoloLens 2 with its articulated hand tracking and its incorporation in industry. It's We're seeing these changes, and I'm lucky enough to be at the forefront of those changes and to know the knowledge required to create some of these things that people are wanting to create. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. This could be a deep question, could not be. We'll see.
Ooh, I love deep questions.
Well, we'll see. What was what was the moment where you realized you don't want to be Tony Stark?
Oh, good question. The moment I realized I didn't want to be Tony Stark was when I realized he treated people like shit. and he treated people as if they were disposable. And I was like, but that doesn't make any sense. I'm not disposable. Why should I treat anyone else like they're disposable? What gives me the right? Why do I need a God complex to feel superior and to feel special? And it wasn't anything like that. And I quickly realized that, like, it's bullshit. For all the brilliance, all of the brilliance of creating technology, there is nothing more brilliant than making someone feel like they have the knowledge and capabilities within themselves to do what they set out for. And that's what I do when I teach. And that's what I strive to do when I teach, is to make sure that they have the knowledge and the confidence to create whatever it is that they want to create. I'm more of a tool than a human tool. not to be confused with like dude bros.
Yeah. Not to be confused with being a tool.
Not to be confused with the slang. But I do like to think of myself as a tool for other people to use.
Right.
Because
Okay.
of the way that I can communicate these concepts and because of my experience in the XR industry and knowledge in it.
Right. Okay. That's an
Yeah.
awesome answer. And it was the deep response.
Deep.
Right?
Let's go
That's
deeper.
excellent.
James Cameron would be jealous.
So, were you instructing at all prior to coming to Circuit Stream, or is this your first foray into instructing? Okay.
This is
And
my
you mentioned
first
earlier, okay, you mentioned earlier that you and your mom have very different styles. So, where do you think your style ultimately comes from?
My style of teaching comes from how I have learned to connect with people. And how I've learned to connect with people is being silly.
I've heard you're the pun queen. Just as a side note, so this student who said that you and I look alike, I
Yes.
just said, "Oh, like we're not related, you know, kind of whatever." And he's like, "Oh, what? You don't have a pun?" And I was like, "I've literally never spoken to her. I didn't know you were the pun queen." But that was I was schooled immediately. Nakisa's the pun queen.
The pun queen. Well, I it's a way for me to be silly and for me to connect with students. So sometimes when I see someone who looks a little bored in class, I'm like, "Bored? Do you need a new hobby? Do you want to try blindfolded archery? Because you don't know what you're missing."
Very quick-witted. Have you ever tried improv?
I have. Oh
Very so,
man.
like,
Improv is certainly, it's a skill and it's so hard. It's so hard. I used to volunteer for this improv group in Calgary, and the just how quick they were is just phenomenal. And
which
I
one?
wish I was that quick. Um shoot, which one was it? Improv comedy. Kinkanauts.
Yes!
Kinkanauts. Yes, that was it.
I had a few art school friends who were in that crowd, so I've been to
Oh,
a
no
couple of their
way.
shows. I wonder if
Nice.
you were there and I didn't even
Oh, maybe.
I mean, we
Maybe just
would have
like
been a while
breezed
ago,
on
right?
by.
Yeah.
What a small world.
Yeah,
What
it
did you
is.
study? What, you were in arts?
Yeah, I went to, AU Arts here in Calgary, which at the
Nice.
time that I was there was still ACAD. Um,
Okay, nice.
and yeah, lots of people into improv over there.
Yeah. Goddamn
Yeah.
quick minds.
I've
Hilarious.
never done it, but I really enjoy it. I'm not quick like that, but I really admire
Yeah.
people who are funny and can make a great story, and it all just kind of
Yeah.
happens. You're playing off of each other. Deep appreciation for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Do you still do anything like that, or that's
No.
in the past?
No. My improv comes through my performance arts. So I used to dance for the circus pre-COVID, and they tell me to dance, and I would dance. And that's it. So
Wait,
now I actually do shows here, and I've been booked for a number of different shows in Victoria and everything. So it's been fun. It's been a wild ride.
what do you mean though? You worded that in a weird way. They tell me to dance,
Did
and
I?
so I dance for the circus. Like,
Yeah, I mean that's how it happens. I get a message and they'll be like, "Hey, you want to dance for this event?" And I'll be like, "Sure."
circus troupe.
Cirque de la Nuit, Circus of the Night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're super
They have
cool.
another show coming up. Finally, I think it's called Epoch. And some good friends are in there. Kimberly Lott is going to be there, and she is a brilliant silk dancer. So she uses those suspended silks. Yeah, she's wicked. She's awesome. Highly recommend if you're in the Calgary area, go check out the show. It's so cool.
Yeah, great plug there. No, this is super cool. Like you have a lot of hobbies. How do you find
So,
how do you find not so much how do you find the time, but how do you find the balance? Because you mentioned earlier that you wanted to make a career change because you are creative and
mhm,
that's evident. You like improv, you like dance.
mhm,
Um, so how do you kind of balance that aspect of yourself with this very technical other side? I don't want to say like left brain, right brain, because that's kind of been
mhm.
disputed. But
Yeah.
as a metaphor, how do you kind of be well rounded in that sort of way?
Code is creative. Code can be very creative, even though it's logic. Logic can grow and blossom into something amazing. Like you can, I even have this book. It's called The Nature of Code. Um, and the nature of code and what it does is it's very creative because you can come up with an infinite amount of solutions, only infinite because of your creativity, um, to any problem that you want. And the more vocabulary you have in code, the more creative and brilliant solutions you can come up with. So for me, code is actually one of the most creative industries or one of the most creative things. You can create so many things with code.
So now, when you're teaching a class and you
Mhm,
have students who are very beginner, and we're talking
mhm,
extreme beginner, how do you convey that passion and excitement and creativity to them in a way that they're going to understand? Because I think most people, myself included, until you just said this now,
mhm.
think of code as being extremely rigid and there is a right or a wrong answer. In my mind, that is sort of the antithesis of creativity because
Mhm,
you can get it wrong. It's a little bit more like math. So how do you kind of break down that barrier for people who are brand new,
mhm.
so that they can feel excited about the challenge and see the creative creativity,
Creativity.
yeah, the aspects of it that are more nuanced.
Yeah, so you have to build like everything, you have to build a foundation for the language. It's just like learning English. You have to learn grammar, you have to learn syntax. Even though the English grammar rules are pretty confusing. I before E, except after C, except if you're weird or
Mhm.
any other word like that. um, so you have to lay the groundworks first. So to lay the groundworks first, it's repeating, repeating. If you're a dancer, you're drilling. And then after that, you sort of get into the basics of logic. And how I like to describe logic is simple, everyday actions. If hungry, then eat. Else, don't. And that's the basic composition of an if statement. If condition, do something, else, do something else. So it's like, if I need caffeine, make coffee. If I don't make coffee. And it's really simple. And once people start to understand the basics of logic and how that applies to their everyday life in that sort of context, it starts to click. It starts to go in. Yeah.
Right. It's almost like when you outline it like that, it's almost like it's too simple in a way, and people are trying to perhaps overcomplicate it.
Yes, people do overcomplicate things all the time, but it can be so simple. Like, I remember in my office hours, there were some students that came and they were just starting in the XR Dev course, and they were wanting help with the homework for the solar system. And so I told them, this is how you do it. And they're like, but that's so simple. And I was like, yeah, that's the beauty of it. It's simple. If life was more simple, maybe it would be more beautiful. No, I'm just kidding. Life is beautiful anyways. It's the simplicity in parts. And then, but then it gets really complicated when that simplicity sort of is connected to something else. And then we start to build systems, and then we can build systems in code. So once you start thinking in systems and compartmentalizing what system does this and how does it connect to something else, that's when things get complicated.
Okay. Do you have any particular favorite stories of students where they were really, really struggling and there was just a moment where you could see it all click for them?
Yes. And it usually happens when I'm describing movement and vectors in Unity. So vectors, if you don't know what vectors are, there is your three vectors in space, your X, Y, Z. So if you're like your, can I share my screen?
I don't know.
I can share my screen.
Do it.
Nice. Okay. So with vectors.
Oh, wait. Gotta add you. There we go.
Right. So with vectors, whoops, that's not a line. You have your Y, you have your X, and then you have your Z. And this is sort of the space that you can draw like a box, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when this is your Y, this is your X, and this is your Z. So any point in space can be described with 3 points of information. You have your X, you have your Y, and then you have your Z. So when moving forward in Unity, the forward vector is always going to be in the Z direction. And this is your forward. Forward can also be described as 0 in the X because there's no X here, 0 in the Y because there's no Y value, and 1 in the Z. So once people start to begin to understand the visual representation of points in space, they can also begin to understand that this direction is applied to game objects in space, meaning their forward vector, if you move it forward at a rate of 1 unit per second, they're going to be moving really fast in the forward direction. So it's usually when I describe this system and what that means in conjunction to moving something in space, then it clicks and I can see it, and I can see like the I get it, I understand.
It's all coming together.
Yes. Yeah, so that's usually what happens. So
Okay, no, very, very cool. Do you have any other particular favorite moments that you want to share about? Maybe with regards to some specific students or some all right, let's fix our view here. Or some projects that you've seen anyone working on, anything that you kind of wanna share with
yeah.
people here?
So one of my students, I believe he had a student spotlight too, Jack Morgan.
Mhm.
Yeah, his project, we worked so hard on that, and there was a lot of, like, technical problems there, but he got it off the ground, and, his project is a beast, and it landed him a job, and I'm super proud of that. I'm so, so proud. That was, and, like, whenever we solved a hard problem at the end of an hour, it'd be like, "Oh!" Oh, it worked. And we do this like virtual high five. And then laugh maniacally because it's alive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love it. So,
Yeah.
okay, I wanna backtrack for a second because you're talking about problem solving, and we're talking about
Yeah.
how code is creative and there's
Mhm.
creativity within the logic. So now, if there is a problem, where do you start in trying to solve it?
Oh, that is the age-old question. If there's a problem, where do you start? Ah. There are theories and university courses all on problem solving, and that's what they teach in engineering. They strive to teach problem solving, but really, what they really do is teaching memory. Anyways, I
Yes.
digress.
We're
um,
we're on the same page. That's
okay.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool. So when it comes down to problem solving and sort of like thinking critically, um, it all begins with drawing a picture and sort of drawing a picture in your mind. So, in the same way that I've drawn a picture of a coordinate system and solved the problem of where something is in forward space, we can draw a picture of the problem using diagrams and using physics bodies, uh, free body diagram, I would call it, from my physics background and everything. So, once you can draw a picture, you can sort of break it down into steps. You can do anything if you can draw a picture of it, which is one of my old university professors told me. Turns out he was right. Yeah, so yeah, if you can draw a picture of it, you can solve it. So it really begins with drawing a picture of it and drawing what forces are acting on it, what you want the logic to do, and sort of like doing a little bit of a brain map. And that's how I start. I start to visualize the picture of the solution in my head before I start writing it. And that usually takes like a few minutes of me just sitting there at the beginning of a one-on-one, just going like, just a minute. Okay, I got it. Yeah, yeah,
The
that's
creative genius coming together.
yes, yes. But then I'll explain it to them and be like, so this is the system that we're building today, and this is gonna work. Just trust me. It all works out in my head. Um, but then the communication comes into part, and then it all clicks and it's all good. Yeah,
Okay,
that's how I
excellent,
start. Yeah. I went
excellent.
off on a
So
huge tangent there.
no,
Sorry.
it's good. It's good. It's great. I want to segue into the next question that I want to ask you because we're talking a lot about logic throughout this conversation and
Mm,
a lot about creative problem solving. So, in your experience now, you've taught many students. what do you think separates, a good student from someone who's really going to be great and is ultimately going to find a really fulfilling career in the XR space? What do you think kind of separates those individuals?
If they don't know something, they try to find the solution on their own. It's very self-guided. That's a key, and that's what I see during one-on-ones, that's what I see during the XR development course. If someone pursues an answer for their question and they bring that knowledge back and they ask more questions, that's how I know that someone is going to be a great student and not just a good student.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jerry actually said something similar when I interviewed him
Oh,
last time, our head of education for everyone watching.
yeah.
He said people who are going to be really successful are very self motivated, self
Mhm.
driven, and they know when to ask for help, but they've kind of given it a
A
good
shot.
go on their
Yeah.
own first.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. I
okay.
totally agree.
So now this might be kind of tricky, but so say you have a student who is total beginner,
Mhm.
and they want to be great. They want a career change,
Mhm.
but they they have no idea how to start problem solving on their own quite yet because this is all just so new. How would you kind of help them develop and cultivate that ability? How do you kind of lay the foundation so that they can help themselves a little bit more as time
Hmm.
goes on?
So usually when someone is really new, they're confused as to what approach to take. So the first task that I do is basically just to calm them down and be like, it's okay. Because their brain is just going like, "Wah!" Um, but then the next thing I do is like, "Okay, so what do you want it to do?" Like, what it's like that scene in The Notebook. What do you want? What do you want? And, like, that first step is really hard, because you have to know what you want the thing to do, or you English. You have to know what you want the thing to do. Is this going to Nope, that was worse.
Right.
You have to know what you want it to do. You have to know what you want it to do. So once you have an idea of what you want it to do, then you can Google is your best friend. Google is very much your best friend. And you don't want like the long boomer answers of how do I screen cap my screen computer. You don't want to do something like that. You want very succinct, I want this. You have to be very decisive. Um, and so that's kind of what I teach people who are really new to this is that you have to identify what you want and then you have to figure out the steps on how to get what you want. So it's like code programming and then also life programming.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Hey, I just wanna say, I love that you brought up Google because as the student experience coordinator, I chat with a lot of students who almost feel like it's some sort of failure on their part if they have to Google something, and I'm like, no.
No.
Who doesn't need to Google something? Like, this is
Yeah.
normal."
Even I Google stuff. I don't know everything. I am not a well, there's hardly any experts in the XR industry because it's so new.
Yeah.
Um, so if anyone tells you they're an expert,
Well, yeah, and I mean, to set student expectations as well, your instructor might Google things. People need to
yeah,
use Google,
absolutely.
and that's
And
not,
like,
a failure.
oh no, it's not a failure at all. The more you know, the more you know you don't know. Um, so when a student asks me a question that I don't have an answer to in class, I say that like, oh, that's a really good question. I actually don't have an answer for you right now, but I will next time. Um, and like that's perfectly okay. Like there are gaps in knowledge. And that's I don't know why we have to be so perfect and everything. I
Mhm.
like being imperfect. It just leaves more room for growth.
Yeah, I
So,
agree, and I mean, Google's here to be an
mhm.
asset, so
Absolutely.
why not use
It's
it?
yeah, it's a tool. So just like we created fire, we created Google and it's the source of all information. Good and bad. Thanks, confirmation bias.
Okay, so now when you have a student who has fallen very behind
Mhm,
in class,
mhm,
what kind of tools do you have for them to help them catch up, help them kind of figure out what they don't know so that they can
mhm.
ask you better questions? How do you help those people out?
Um, Emphasizing to rewatch the course recordings. There's emphasizing that going over the basics during one-on-ones, and a lot of the times the issue is confidence.
Mhm, mhm.
And yeah, so it's like, oh, I don't get it and I'm not going to get it. And I'm like, whoa, 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 you can get it. It just needs to be explained in the right way. Um, so, um, there's a lot of interpersonal skills when you're teaching. It's very human when you're dealing with something that looks non-human but is actually more human centric than anything in the world. Um, which is XR industry, right? The XR technology. Um, so what was the question?
Helping people catch up
Helping
if they're
people catch up.
very
Yes. Rewatch the course recordings. Send them some Brackeys tutorials. I love Brackeys tutorials because they're bite-sized. I recommend watching the tutorials themselves, not actually doing the tutorial alongside the video because he goes quite quickly. Um, there's a lot of resources in reading. Um, and it's just like, yeah, walking them through the process that not only can they understand these things, but they can also use these things to create what they want to create.
right.
So once they understand they can actually do something, then it just sort of gets the ball rolling. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So something that I'm hearing you saying is that when people feel like they're behind and they're in a rush, the first step is really just to stop
Hmm.
and breathe and recenter and and then there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I've had a lot of students that come into the one-on-ones and they're really nervous. And I'm like, oh, little baby, don't be nervous. Um, and it turns out they're just like, there's this problem with being a perfectionist and having to do things perfectly on the first try. And I'm like, no, be messy, have spaghetti code, at least you're doing something. And I remember this quote from Mark Twain. He says the first step to getting ahead is to start. So you
Mhm.
just have to start. You just have to start learning and paying attention to the classes and paying attention to the code and paying attention to the logic and the problem solving and what you want it to do and paying attention to what you really want. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's really a key.
Yeah, getting started and being persistent.
Mhm.
When you just said that quote, it made me think of something that an instructor told me when I was in art school, and he was like, there's a reason why most successful artists are old, why they're older, and it's because those are the people who stuck with it.
Mhm.
Most people stop before they really reach their success, and it's the
Yeah.
ones who actually just keep showing up for the activity of whatever
Mhm.
they're doing. Those are the ones who go somewhere with it.
Mhm.
So that, I mean, that's kind of a metaphor in and of itself, but really just, yeah, people are so afraid of getting started and failing, but I feel like you got to just fail fast. That's kind of,
Yeah, fail fast, fail hard, do it again.
well, exactly. And you know, even with art, even with drawing, people ask me, well, how do you draw? Well, you make marks and then you fix them. But you
Yeah.
make marks and you fix
Same.
them
It's the
over.
same deal. Yeah. You make code and then you fix it.
You fix it till it's right.
Yeah, yeah. Until it does what you want it to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's shift gears here for a
Okay.
second because
Okay.
there's a question the gang wants me to ask you. Your opinion on the metaverse, and what do you think is going to be the next big thing in all of our lives? If you could look into the
Mm.
future, it's okay. In the comments, side
Ooh.
note, it's David. David's the one who thinks we look alike. David's David.
David! What? Maybe it's our teeth because we do have similar teeth.
Do we? I don't know.
A little bit.
Whatever. David, we are not related, but
No.
I mean, it would be nice. Like, there's no way to be
Yeah,
related.
it would be nice. Have another sister. It'd be cool.
But yeah, okay. So your opinion on the metaverse, and what do you think is going to be the next big thing that really shakes up life for us as humans?
Ooh. The next big thing that shakes up life. That's a big one. That's a really big one. I really believe that mixed reality will be a huge game changer, and it already is a huge game changer in the AEC industry, so architecture, engineering, construction industries, because it's just so useful. It's so useful in representing data and visualizing data. It's useful in representing learning in a kinematic way because most people are kinematic learning. They learn by doing. So if you just have a headset on and you're doing these things as you're learning, your learning is going to skyrocket. There's already been a lot of case studies where in warehouses, their productivity has gone up 90%, just because now all their sources of information are on their head and they can see it and they can visualize it. So I think what it will be a game changer in the future is going to be mixed reality headsets and spatialization and world locking tools and geolocation. Yeah, all that stuff.
Okay, that's super cool. How do you see this impacting the lay person? Like, how do you see this being adopted into everyday life? Not necessarily the workplace, though that is awesome too. How do you see this
Mhm.
being something that's influential for like the everyday person's life?
The everyday person's life? Well, we think of smart glasses and what they can do for us. So imagine you are on your way home from work and you need to pick up your kids and you need to schedule their dentist appointments and do all this stuff. Whereas, and you have these smart glasses, and these smart glasses can show you scheduling conflicts or stuff like that. So you can make really fast decisions on the go. So if you imagine the usefulness for everyday life, for voice commands or your gaze commands or your gesture commands. And in HoloLens terms, this is called GGV, your gaze, gesture, and voice, because we have to design for all different human capability of input. And right now we are doing gaze, gesture, and voice. So it'll be really useful when you're just like, or even when you're making a list for save on foods and you're ordering online and you're just like sitting there and you have your glasses on and you're like, okay, I want to make chicken parmesan tonight. So you'll say, give me some chicken parmesan recipes. And then it shows up and you see all these ingredients minus the backstory of every single cooking blog on earth.
The preamble you have to scroll every time.
God, give me the recipe.
Your boys
Mine
started hockey. Okay, great.
yeah, that's nice. Yeah, but like scrolling and all that stuff, and then you can just order things directly online using your gaze and or like a pinch, and just like and simply disconnecting and paying attention to the world around you is a matter of taking these things off. So if we picture our lives as they are right now, our lives are filled with black boxes with screens. And if we can replace those screens with spatial 3D objects, wouldn't that declutter our lives instead of making it more cluttered? And then, disconnecting is just taking them off. Instead of unplugging the computer, unplugging the PS5, even though I'm really excited for it. So yeah, I think that mixed reality, once it becomes the computation becomes faster, like spatializing things. And we're seeing this with like the LiDAR scanner in the iPhone and what they'll be doing with the AR glasses. I think that it's going to be really cool and a really neat game changer for the layperson, the common peasant.
Peasants. Okay, very good. I just have one last question for you. And we touched on this a little bit because we've been kind of talking about just kind of who you are and what you like throughout this whole conversation. But if you want to kind of focus on that for a second,
Sure.
what do you like to do for fun outside of work? And
What do I like to do for fun? Well, I play video
like what
games.
is yeah?
Like who doesn't play video games in this industry?
I actually
It's
don't, but
but
you know what?
see,
You are the XR person. I am the student experience person. So I'm
Mhm.
in on it, but I'm a little bit on the peripheral still, I feel.
So because I am in the XR industry, it's no longer playing video games, it's doing research. Yeah, yes, it's doing research because you need to figure out or you need to experience like what other people are doing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same as like going to the theater and seeing what other performance artists are choreographing or stuff like that.
Yeah. That actually makes complete sense. It's funny to joke about it, but I mean it's true. You have to know what's out there. You have to know what people are consuming. If
Exactly.
say you were going to develop your own video game, you got to have a sense of the competition, what's been done, all of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I get
What
it.
you like, what you don't like. Yeah, that sort of thing. So in my spare time, I do video games research. And then I
First
also,
failure.
yeah, so I also dance. So I dance. One of my favorites is the Argentine tango. And I've been doing that for a good few years on and off. And then like a whole variety of different types of dance, like Vogue. I'm really into Vogue right now. And just like duck walk, duck walk, duck walk, Vogue. Yeah. It's intense. Yeah. So I do a lot of that. I have a dog and I take him out for some trail runs and everything, and he is my best bud and my life partner.
Yeah, I too.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like your little boyfriend that you gave birth to. And they're You're
Yes.
everything.
You'll love them forever.
Okay, weird dog mom moments from us, but it's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what
Having
kind
a
of
dog
dog?
is
I thought I saw his little paws up in the air earlier
he
for a moment.
oh there he is.
Sweetie. Shepherd mix.
Aw. Yeah, he's a shepherd mix.
Mine too. The ultimate.
Yeah.
The ultimate. Andrew in the comments, dogs are the best. Yes, they are.
They are. I used to have a cat though. But some stuff have happened and I couldn't have him anymore. But his name was Widget after Final Fantasy, and he was the cutest little guy. He was so cuddly, but like separation anxiety
Oh,
to the max. And same with this guy. He's got a lot of separation anxiety. Maybe it's me.
mm, that would be unusual for cats, but shepherds for sure have separation anxiety. Mine
Mhm.
does. I think it's
Yeah.
normal. It's
Yeah.
like it's their high energy nervousness, and they really bond with you. But that's kind
They
of easy
do.
to do that about a cat.
Okay, maybe it was just this cat then. Because he did not want to leave my side at all, and he would throw a fit if I left.
Aw,
Yeah,
oh boy.
he'd try to follow me everywhere, and maybe that's my fault.
You encouraged it.
I'm the problem.
Oh, best friends. I'm acting like I'm involved. I'm the idea person here. We, whoever that is, are going to create an off-leash dog park in VR. So please involve yourself.
Yes,
Make it happen.
absolutely.
Collaborate with Andrew, and
Oh my
it's
god. That would be so cool.
it is on. Okay, let's take a quick peek at the comments here.
Mhm.
Um, Nakisa rocks. Thank you, Spencer.
Aw, thanks.
Right?
Dwayne Johnson would be jealous.
David says you're his favorite pun queen, of course.
Aw.
And David's starting the XR course next week. That is excellent.
Nice. Which class will you be in
This would
mine?
be I could look him up later, or if he
Okay.
wants to post in the comments. I'm not sure
Yeah.
offhand what section he's in. Onboarded everyone yesterday. Yeah, Andrew, dogs are the best. Yes, they are. Okay, no questions in the comments, but thanks everyone
Okay.
who turned up.
Mhm.
Before we sign off, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Anything that's now's your moment. If there's anything that people really need to know about you,
Okay.
let it out.
I live by three three things. No, I live by two rules, or not two rules, two sayings. One is from my brother, and he tells me, "Bite off more than you can chew and chew it." And the second one is from bonus points for whoever can identify what movie this is from. But my second quote that I live by is, "It's a bold move, Cotton. We'll see how this plays out." Do you know that movie?
I don't.
You don't know? Okay, what about this one? It's from the same movie. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. You don't know this one?
Is it dodgeball?
It is dodgeball. You know, dodgeball.
I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes is, "It's a bold move, Cotton. We'll see how this plays out." Because I, if there's one thing that I'd like to pass off, it is to take risks, and to take calculated risks, not just any risk, but calculated risks, meaning that you have thought about the pros, you thought about the cons, you thought about the repercussions, and you're like, fuck it. If I can swear.
You've sworn a few times, I've noticed.
Okay. Sorry,
We're
my bad.
live, we're doing it live.
Oh, no. Farts.
There you
That's
go.
better. That's better.
I
Yeah.
love that that resonates with you because, the thing that I'm really taking away from our conversation is that you gotta just go for it, which is such a cliche in a way,
Mhm.
but it's people don't do that. People don't live their lives like that. They think that
No.
they do. They want to say that they do, but people like to play it very safe.
Mhm.
And you don't learn that way. That's for sure.
Yeah. I wouldn't be in the XR industry if I didn't take a risk. It's
Hmm.
a brand new industry as opposed to electrical engineering, and can I make money off of it? Turns out you can.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so it was a huge calculated risks, but boy, did it pay off.
Yeah. I see David posted in the comments here. If you want to fit your answer into like just a 3 minute, the 3 minutes that we have left, he's asking, what is your favorite XR project that you are most proud of?
Favorite XR project that I am most proud of. That I am most proud of.
I'm sure there's many.
There's a lot. There is a lot. I've done a lot of projects. Um, they're all my favorite. They're all my babies. I have learned something key from every single one of my projects. And I'm still learning from some of these projects, on these bigger projects. Um, I guess the favorite one that I worked on was something called the T71, which was for Invista, and that was part of a larger team. I love working as part of a larger team, and being contributing to something bigger than myself, and um, being a little code monkey that makes things happen. Um, so this project was led by Eric Carter, and he is absolutely just a beast of a person, and he acts like it's nothing. He's just so humble, but he knows all of these things, and he's so curious and so personable, and I keep learning from him even after he's gone. And that was one of my favorite projects to be on. Another one of my favorite projects T was it the T93 or the T70? I don't know. There's two different machines and they all have T something. But the first one was my first experience being part of a larger team. And that's when I was like a little baby developer and everything. And I was under David Green. And David Green, also a beast of a developer, but I learned so much from him. So much. So all of my favorite projects are projects that I have learned for larger projects that I have learned something from, projects
Hmm.
that I've learned a lot from. So when I start a project, it's more of like, Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when Pinky's like, what are we going to do tonight, Pinky or Brain? And the Brain is just like, try to take over the world. And
Hmm.
every single episode, it's a different project. It's a different thing. That's kind of how my brain works.
You are extremely growth oriented. That's something that is very,
Yes.
very evident. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, I mean, I love to hear that your favorite projects are the ones where you learned something because,
Mhm.
I mean, what else are we doing here, right?
Yeah. If you're not learning, then what's the point of
I agree.
life?
I agree.
Yeah. Let's
On
get
that
existential.
note, on that note, we're at the top of the hour. Thanks for everyone who tuned in. Thanks for joining me, Nakisa, and
Hmm.
tune in for the next one. I'm not sure when it's going to be, probably in 2 weeks' time or so. And yeah, thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah.